Welcome everybody to podcast 13 with Matt and Tim of Rechargeability, and we're going to be focused on finding off. Tim, why is this an issue that people should be concerned about?
Years ago, I used to think that high energy was the right way of being productive and managing one's life. And then through I keep on talking about the knife fight of wisdom and me. And I realized that unless you can switch off properly, you'll never relax and you'll burn out. Simple as that, basically. So there's a logic and gravity to that that's you can't get away from. And relaxation's part of it, but it's not enough. You need to be able to switch off properly, and you need to have a strategy for it.
How's this affecting people?
Okay. Right, I've got some stuff that surprised me actually. So the UK's biggest ever online test into stress was conducted by the BBC Labs and the University of Liverpool, a little under 10 years ago, 2013. And it found out that rumination, or continually dwelling on or being stuck on thoughts of a negative nature, right, is the biggest predictor of mental health problems.
Wow.
It surveyed over 37,000 people, 172 nationalities, right? This is significant, right? And it found out that, 1 in 3 people now will have mental health issues in their lifetime, right? The WHO, World Health Organization, estimated, this is in 2010, right? That this is costing the world economies $2.5 trillion in productivity. So basically, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to have a rumination issue in your life over time. And unless you have an ability to switch off, it will run out of control. Relaxation is not enough, right? You need to be able to switch off, because when we get stuck on stuff, we focus on it and it grows.
Yeah.
And, some people are lucky. They, things change. They don't have to worry so much. But it's particularly if you're under ongoing stress, particularly if you're in a situation where, there is no quick end game here, right? You're having to deal with something. You can get caught on some negative stuff that can just, when you're tired, when you haven't slept well, when you're feeling ill, for example, when your system's depleted, you can get stuck on it and you can get caught on it. And particular, passion of mine, because that's what happened to me personally. I got stuck on some negative thinking. I'd stopped thinking. I'd stopped relaxing completely. I'd stopped sleeping, and the negative cycles aren't too far away. And I got stuck on this negative cycle. And the classic relaxation techniques I had then just didn't work. I couldn't get off it. Yeah. And there's a reason why there's medical help here for people who cannot get off it too. This is a big problem unless you can find off.
You've left me hungry to know about how to do it. By the way, the problem.
There's where do I start this? There's a person who I love at the moment, a guy called Sam Harris, who's like a public intellectual in the US, and he's got fairly well known recently about being somebody who Jordan Peterson kind of spars off. They both kind of have pretty serious discussions about stuff, and I really like a lot of what Sam is about, and in particular he's about researching consciousness and researching how the mind works, and he's really looked at this in a major way, and he basically has figured out, and I buy into this, that you can't stop mental activity. People think you can just switch off. Literally, you can just go into cessation. You can't stop it, right? All you can do is calm it, right? So when you know that, there's a certain amount of freedom here. Because what it means is, a lot of people think, all right, finding off literally means I'm thinking of nothing, and that's the level of I need to attain to. But that's very hard to do. There's constantly mental activity happening. So having a strategy to calm that down is what we need. Now, you've talked about breathing, right? I'm not going to talk about breathing today, but at its heart, breathing is a very, very critical component of this. But also understanding how the mental processes work are really critical here, right? So the ability when thoughts come to be able to frame those in a way that's healthy. We talk about growth mindset in a previous podcast too, but the ability how to hold stressful thoughts is a skill, right? Growth mindset is a very good strategy about how we package and frame the negative thoughts that are affecting us. That's one way of doing this. The other way of doing this is also to start finding activities that we enjoy through flow. Now, again, in podcast 3, you talked about flow. Flow is a wonderful way of switching off, which allows mental processes to take place, but in a really, really healthy way, right? So you get all the good stuff of switching off, right? But the mental activities aren't stopped, right? Because they don't get stopped. They never get stopped, right? They just get put into a format that soothes and recharges us. So strategy number 1 is find those things that give you flow. Now, where do you find those things that give you flow? Well, start off with the things you enjoy doing. Typically, when people get stressed, they dial down on the stuff they enjoy doing, right? So what are the things you enjoy doing? For me personally, I love squash, as you know. I get on a squash court, I start hitting a ball. Nothing matters, right? Nothing matters. The day after Tala passed away, I was on a squash court hitting a ball. Seriously, right? And I wasn't thinking about anything else because I was literally in the moment on that. Find the things that give you flow. For me, squash, walking. I'm a big walking fan now. I have my hourly walk every day out in nature. I'm very lucky here in Norway to be able to do that. But walking for me is like a mental way of calming, connecting to nature. My thoughts just get a lot more calm too. Reading for me, listening to music, writing are all activities that work for me. Now, I'm an extrovert. What's really important here is what's your style like? If you're an introvert, maybe start considering some activities that actually ramp you up a bit, right? Activities that actually switch you off in a way that maybe energizes you. I'm an extrovert. What's good for me is to have activities that lower my pulse, actually shows the pulse. So have a range of flow activities that quicken the pulse and slow the pulse, because actually that's good for your brain. It gives you the sort of massaging that it needs. So flow. Find flow. If you're curious about finding flow, there's an exercise in our book in the enjoy section. How do you find what you enjoy? Do it. You'll start coming up with a list then of the things you enjoy. All right. So have a strategy for that. The next thing, as I said, I talked about having a growth mindset, right? Which is fine, again, in the book. But again, I'm a big fan of knife fights with how we do stuff, because I'm inherently resistant to all this stuff, right? How, if you're resistant, you get good at this. I've got some stuff for you, right? I've come across this amazing Australian Buddhist nun, sorry. She sounds like this typical Aussie outbacker, but she's a Buddhist nun, and she does these online meditations that are just masterful. And she's called Jayasara. I'll put it into the podcast notes. But she literally, in lockdown, she decided to share these meditations with love, because she realized that actually people need some help about how they find off through their thinking. She's got a series of meditations that are exactly look at how do you slow the mind down? How do you find off? And she has the most accessible person. Her voice is wonderful, completely a-religious, lovely sounding, right? Find her and enjoy them. They're the best thing I know to quickly switch the mind off is listening to her. The other thing as well is find out how sensitive you are. Now, this is something that, I think there's called HSP, highly sensitive people, something that's starting to become a bit well known now. A lot of people, when they struggle to find off, are actually highly sensitive people. They get overstimulated, because the problem is overstimulation. We get overstimulated and we get used to that. If you're a highly sensitive person, it might be worth knowing that. So at hsperson.com, you can take a test and find out if you're a highly sensitive person. And again, some tips about what you can do to change the environment around you, practical stuff, lifestyle stuff, thinking stuff, if you're a highly sensitive person. My partner she is needing to start doing some of the strategies, about, reducing the time of chatter, reducing the time of music. There's practical stuff you can do to reduce the overstimulation you get. I'm not a highly sensitive person. I'm kind of a medium one. So again, find out your style. because a lot of this is affecting people who actually are naturally highly sensitive and they struggle to find off. And then the final thing is I'm going to be writing a blog post. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to research. My guy, Sam Harris, I was telling you about, he's got an app called Waking Up, which is taking this to the next level, taking this ability to literally mentally look at how you cultivate your mind and find off. And I'm going to be experimenting with the app now. I've just signed up to it, the Waking Up app, and I'm going to be doing his challenge. So I'll let you know how it goes on, and I'll be writing about it in our blog post, because I think there are apps nowadays that can actually support you to do this. So I've tried Headspace, didn't work for me. And I'm not saying it's a great app, it just didn't work for me, right? Let's see how we get on with this Waking Up app, because I'm pretty excited about Sam Harris's approach. He's somebody, I think he might have cracked it. So I'm going to give it a go. And if it does work, I'll let our viewers, our followers find out about it too, because I think there is help here technically too. So hopefully that's at least an overview of a big area, which is you need a strategy.
Yeah.
You really need to look at it, look at your sensitivity style too, and also have a strategy of finding flow to help you do that. Will really help you find off in an engaging way.
Tim, that is a brilliant, accessible summary of what our listeners and viewers can start to experiment with. And
yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, we talked about the Monday morning meditations, which we're going to start be doing. And, you know, by the time people watch these podcasts, they should be up and running. Come and join us. You know, that's a place where we'll be experiencing and playing around with finding off. So see how we get on with that.
Wonderful. Any closing reflections or pointers on having researched and prepared this?
Yeah, I realize a big part of why I feel happy and confident is because I feel I have an ability to, regardless of the stresses I now have, regardless of the external environmental changes I have with change or decisions, I genuinely feel as though regardless, I can find that still place and be okay. And without the ability to find off, I wouldn't have it. So I feel I've got a solid rock in my life, which is making me feel happy because of this.
Tim, thank you so much for sharing very openly. It's been wonderful. Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah.
And tune in to our next podcast.
Lovely. Thank you.